Welcome to the little corner on the internet where we talk about all things creative, more specifically, creative project management. It's our dream to help millions of creatives bring their visions to life using creative project management. So if that sounds like your vibe, you're in the right place. If you're a returning subscriber, welcome back, Visionary. And if you're new, hit the subscribe button to stay up to date with us and join the group of beloved visionaries that we make this content for. Today, we want to give you a little peek into our creative journey by reflecting on the creative journey that we have been on up until this point, so you'll understand how we got here and how Zone came to be. We'll be talking with Dr. Arrington about the creative journey of building the Arrington Method, which is the revolutionary model for creative project management. Just for a quick refresher, here's the model that will take any creative idea from inception to execution. There are 3 realms: envision, discover, and create. And within each realm, there are 2 phases. At the end of each realm, there's an exhibit, which is kind of like a checkpoint that shows off all of the work that got done during the previous phases. Now that we got that all refreshed, let's give a warm welcome to Arnitra.
Say hello to Arnitra, everyone.
Hello.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what sparked the invention of the Arrington Method?
Absolutely. My name is Arnitra, and I have been working in the project management field for roughly 22, 23 years. I started off in IT, working on a lot of software enhancement projects. And I really found them, unfortunately, to be invigorating in thought, but in process and actually managing them, they left a lot to be desired. And so in my free time, I started helping friends who had projects, because at the time, people were very unfamiliar with what is project management. And so people didn't really understand how to apply tools to like personal home projects. So I was introduced to this lovely guy, and he wanted to start a fashion line. And I kept trying to apply traditional project management methods to this fashion line, which was phenomenal. It was inspiring. Everything about working with this guy was just a dream. But the tools that I had did not fit his style of work. And so at that moment, that was back in 2012, I started to think about like, how can I work with him? How can I develop something that will support the way that he works? And then fast forward to 2016, I came across this video about a group in China that built a 58-story building in 19 days. And it just blew my mind. And I was just like, what was the behind the scenes that took place to allow this to happen? And that, coupled with like my desire to work with creatives, that's just sort of how the model was born. And from there, it just sort of evolved into what it is today.
Wow, that's amazing. That's so incredible. So it's from a fashion line, you got the whole inspiration for working with creatives and getting a whole different view.
Absolutely.
How cool. How was your experience prototyping it?
Prototyping, although it's a huge component of the model today, back then it wasn't. And I'd love to share some actual images with you to help give you some ideas about like what it looked like and what we went through in terms of those initial designs. But in terms of process, the model, it just sort of started in my head, and I started ideating and I started coming up with these different sort of thoughts in terms of what it should include. And then as I finalized those thoughts, I would go and I would have like a designer like take those thoughts and make them pretty. You can sort of see the original design here in this screen. And so when you look at what we have today, which sort of looks like a journey and it looks like a pathway, originally it was like these circles and these connectors. So this is one of the earlier designs actually of my model from 2016 when I first started. And it just sort of started to evolve from there. I had like this huge explanation, but as you can see from the very beginning, envision, discover, create was always there. And I sort of struggled with like, how do I innovate? How do I inspire? And so I'm not surprised that prototyping became a core element of what the model is today, because I went through a lot of back and forth myself, trying to understand like, what does the model mean? What does it look like? What things are important to me? So this imagery, it's very reflective of the different levels of prototyping that I went through. And trust me, although this is one of the first images, it's by far, not the only precursor to what we have. We went through many different revisions. And what was great about prototyping is when I first had the idea for the methodology, it was just me. And not until 2019 was I able to pull together the amazing team that I have to help further that. And so we were able to pilot it. We were able to test it out with the help of supporters. And so that's why what people see today is sort of like this flourishing, very stable, very solid methodology and model.
And that's all because of prototyping, isn't it? All because you went through those first iterations.
Yes, exactly.
Wow. Amazing to see how you like connect, how everything connects and to see what it's actually become,
Right. I love looking at the old images because it's a reflection of all of the hard work that goes into what we do as visionaries. And if you take time to read the Arrington Method guide, at the very end, you will see honorary members, because I believe in honoring the brain power of people. And I know that had I not had that support, it still may be a work in progress. It takes a really long time in some efforts to reach that point of satisfaction. But when you have the support of your peers, providing you sort of like that, those points of clarification and that reassurance, it makes you feel more comfortable to actually publish, that idea.
I see. So the team is what really pushed it forward and made it what it became.
The core foundation of the methodology, it's to focus on vision and people. In my career, I've seen a lot of professional project managers treat people unkindly, and I've in return seen that treatment reflected in the work. That behavior sort of transfers into the level of quality, productivity. So it's very important for me to highlight those areas, because a lot of times you come up with an idea and then you dive into it and it becomes so task driven, you forget the why. You forget what made me want to do this in the first place. And then you forget that if it's not a team of one project and you need other people, that the energy and the focus that they're putting into supporting your dream matters. It matters that they care. It matters that they're invested. It matters that they want to support you, whether you're paying them or not. You are using their talents and their brain power. And so the why behind the model is sort of hand in hand with the methodology. It's like, how can I infuse this idea of vision in people into process? So on a base level, the methodology sort of focuses on that. Like the methodology tells us, the what, like what is this, and what is what's the logic and the rationale behind it. And then we have the model that tells us the how. So, okay, you've told me, what's important. Now, how do I do it? And so the focus on vision in people was always very, very important to me. And so in order to sort of connect that ideology to the actual transmission of working on creative projects is how the two sort of came together.
Wow, that's awesome. That's amazing. It is important to have a happy team, and I guess the way you communicate with people, it shows in their work. It shows in if everybody's happy and enthusiastic and kind with each other, it just brings the whole energy for the whole team together. It is true. It is true.
And I don't think, I try not to speak negatively about other methodologies because I think they all serve purpose. But I have noticed that none sort of speak to those elements. There are theories about team, there's Tuckman's, 5 stages of team development. So we have theory and we have methodology around team development, team performance. But when it comes to project management, the team is such an integrated component of the work. Like there is no project manager without a team. Like the role just wouldn't exist. And so I really thought it was important to focus on that element of what makes the work progress.
Yeah, that makes total sense. All righty. Wow. Would you like to tell me a bit about your Discover Realm?
The Discover Realm came about, so really cool story. It was me and my team at the time. It was back in 2022, I think. And I invited everyone to my home, and we had like this jam session, this envisioning session. And Cheyenne and Emily were split into a group. And we were just trying to figure out like how do we construct this model in this sort of seamless approach that is easy to digest. And so we all went away into our separate groups, and when we came back, Emily and Cheyenne actually came up with the name Realms of Creativity. I just fell in love instantly. And sometimes when I fall in love with something, I want so badly for it to work that I try to fit everything else into it. So I was like, I really want to use this concept of realms of creativity, but how do we do that? And so that's how we ended up with like the Envision Realm, Discover Realm, and Create Realm. So we already had these pockets of like, we want you to ideate, we want you to sculpt. So we started to divide them into the realms. And so the Discover Realm came about because, as you saw from the imagery that I showed you, it's always existed, but in the past, it sort of included other areas of uncovering more about your project. So the Discover Realm is just that. It's about getting to a point of celebrating the moment of not knowing and slowly figuring out all of those things that help you understand what's a true possibility. Because in the Envision Realm, we're saying dream with your idea and, just write down everything. Don't think about what's possible and what's not possible. And so when you transition into the Discover Realm, we sort of start to bring you back down to earth, and we say, okay, now that you've gotten everything down, that want to do. Let's figure out what's actually possible. And our hope is that as you transition through the realms, you're maintaining that motivation. You're maintaining those levels of excitement. You're maintaining that connection to your vision statement and the why things are important. So every single stage and every single step should provide you with some feeling of accomplishment and some levels of excitement that you're moving forward. And it's no different in Discover. You may find that there are ideas that are not as feasible as you hoped, or things may cost more than you thought they would cost. But the great part about Discovery is that it gets you one step closer to understanding what that vision looks like in the end, because we change our mind anyway. But what we're hoping happens in the Discover realm is that we're changing it at an early enough time that it doesn't have those negative impacts when we naturally go from think to do. When we naturally have an idea and we just sort of like dive right in. What we're hoping happens in this realm is like you take your time and you actually consider what is possible. You figure out the who, the how much, the where, you answer all of those question marks. You work through your challenges, you figure out like what things you're most concerned about, and you find solutions. So I love research. That's just me. But I like to think about it, if I'm thinking about it visually, I like to think about Discover as like excavation. It's like if you have this really cool dinosaur kit and you're just sort of like digging
into the details.
You don't kind of know what you're looking for, but you don't know what you're going to find. And so a lot of times it can be intimidating going into the Discover realm because you're like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? What's going to change about my idea? But you may find that you end up not uncovering, dinosaur bones, but maybe you might come across the diamond or, something you weren't expecting, but it's a nice little prize for you because you took the time to really work through understanding the possibility of your idea. And then I'm sorry, I'm being too wordy, but one final thought I will say is that if you really give Discover the time that it deserves, it is truly rewarding to come across the possibility of the ideas that you initially thought impossible. And I think that's probably one of the most rewarding parts of it.
That is awesome. That is so awesome. Wow. How do you stay motivated, or how did you stay motivated during the process?
During the process of developing the Arrington Method, again, the team plays a huge role in that motivation. For self-motivation, it's about reflection. I think if I could lean on something one of my students said during like biblical revival, is that oftentimes we don't realize how infrequently we celebrate our wins. As humans, it's very natural for us to continue to plan for what's next. We're also conditioned that way by society, where it's like, okay, tomorrow I'm going to do this, or in 5 years I want to be here. And so we're always looking forward, but we never stop and actually process, okay, I got here. And at some point, here was a part of a plan that I made. Here was a dream that I had. And so that reflection for me really helps keep me motivated, because oftentimes we forget to go back and look at like, oh, where I am today was a dream. and I made it here.
That's so true.
Like, let's celebrate
You've
that.
already gotten this far, yeah. Of course.
Yeah,
How
before
cool.
thinking about tomorrow so quickly, let's just
let's sit and think about what I've already done, what I've already accomplished. It's true.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, not everybody does that, myself included. You know, sometimes it's really easy to look in the future, but it's kind of hard to go back and think, actually, I've actually grown a lot since,
I've done
started.
quite a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, I've grown a bit.
Exactly.
Cool.
So that definitely helps me stay motivated. Reassurance from my team members helps me stay motivated, because a lot of times doubt can creep in, and I think it's normal. We have new terminology coming out, like what is it called? Imposter syndrome, where people are feeling, like they can't own their creativity because everything is so recycled, but we live in a world with 8 billion people plus. So there's going to be duplications in ideas. There's going to be duplications in approaches to things. Like, you just can't get around that originality anymore because we are, constantly growing as a population. It sort of reduces the resources that were originally, so bountiful that there's not so much to pull from. But if we are fair to ourselves, and if we look at like the basic, if we look at the basic sort of outline of life, everything has been recycled. Everything from the wheel to the telephone, it's just different versions of the same thing. Hundreds of years ago, we had the telegram, and it's just another form of communication. It's not that communication is new. It's not that the cell phone was just like this, great innovative work. It's still communication. It's just a different
it still came from something else.
Yes, exactly. So it's just, we have to give ourselves more grace, and we have to give ourselves more opportunity to dream and really appreciate that we do own our own thoughts, and we do own our own ideas, even if someone else happens to have the same one. So I think when those moments of doubt creep in that are natural, that you have someone that you can go to who can sort of pull you back out and help you say, like, no, that idea is still good. It's still yours. It's still different in its own way. And so I lean on my team a lot for that. But I could go on and on and on about different ways that I stay motivated, but those are my top two.
Are you happy with the outcome of your vision?
I'm so happy. I'm so in love with the model. I can't dote on Emily enough on her design efforts. It's so interesting if you look at the model and then you look at the exhibit, and you just see sort of like these shapes and these words and these, images, but so many hours. It brings tears to my eyes. So many hours, so many conversations, so many drafts went into it. And I'm so happy with how it came out and how dedicated the people that I work with are to my vision and to seeing it happen. That there's never this point where people are exhausted with it or the morale drops. There's always the same level of commitment and energy and love for the methodology, and that's what's baked into it. And so I'm so happy with how it turned out, because it's just all of us all of the people that I work with on it live inside of it. Emily's designs, Cheyenne's words, Catalina's, thoughts and great ideas. She's like one of the best ideators I've ever worked with in my life. Emma Ray, who's an amazing sounding board. And so like every time I look at it, I see a reflection of the people who gave me so much of themselves to help me build something that was important to me. So I'm ecstatic about how it turned out. Absolutely.
You should be. I mean, and it's amazing that you've let everybody have a little piece and let them be a part of it. It's amazing. Not be a part of it. I mean, I guess without them, it wouldn't be possible.
Yeah. You have to. I know that there are some things that we work on and we work on them alone and they become a success. But something as grand as this, that you anticipate touching so many different people, you have to connect with others to get their insight, to understand that the way that you want to connect, the way that you want, to inspire. We just got through talking about motivation. Like that's also a huge foundational piece of the methodology, inspiring and motivating individuals to keep going and keep pushing forward. And so when you want those things to sort of be read when someone is using something that you created, it has to be built into it some way.
What were some of your achievements along the way?
I would say one of the great things about building a model that focuses on vision and people made me think a lot about how I wanted to build my own company. And so if you ever sort of like come into our virtual doors, you'll see that the model, the methodology, it overlaps with a lot of our core business practices. We're a very fun group. We're a very lively group. And so that I don't know how to call it. It was just sort of like this influence into my own business and into how I decided to lead. I consider myself a leader in terms of like how the fact that I own a company, but in working with people, I don't see levels. I see us all just contributing. And so in building the model, I would say one of the greatest achievements is that it heavily influenced how we work at Zone, how we worked at TAM, and it continues to inspire everyone who comes through the door and exit with a good experience. And that's always my hope, is that not reputation from a marketing standpoint, but just from my own personal values, is that everyone who connects with us, they have a good experience, even if they don't gain, what they expected to gain, from our tools or whatnot, but they can always say that they had a positive experience. I've built a lot of friendships along the way. I've met a lot of great people. We've had so many people sort of come through and help us test different elements. There was a point in time where the envisioning session was actually a part of the model. The questionnaire was actually a part of the model. And so we have people like my friend Elizabeth, who lives in Africa, who helped build the questionnaire. We have people like Poli, who lives in the Ukraine, who designed all of the imagery for our first website and helped to design some of the elements for earlier versions of the methodology. And so it gave us an opportunity to connect with the world. And right now we're building a software that's based on the model. And we had a really cool developer consultant in South Africa named Tino. And so we have like this global community already before we actually went public with the model of people who were supporting, and so excited to see, what would come of it. And so I think when, to me, the achievements are still coming. The achievements are like the gift that keeps giving, because these are people that still reach out to us, people that we still reach out to. Polly just did a design for us for Access Village. So these are hopefully lifetime connections and lifetime support that goes both ways, because essentially what the model has achieved in itself is sort of like this posterity of stability that lives on and can continue to motivate and continue to help people create really great things. So
that's amazing. So your biggest achievement is seeing other people's achievements and seeing other people grow and succeed. And what a great way to think about it.
Yeah, I love that. I love that we have created something that allows people to manifest their dreams. I run into so many people. I love dreamers and I love hearing ideas. Like, I can just sit on a bench and have people come all day and just tell me their ideas. But every time I have an opportunity to return to people, in the past, it's always been, oh yeah, nothing came of it, or I didn't finish, or I started and stopped. And I carry that with me because I'm like, why? Like, why can't, why didn't you see it through to the end? So motivation is a huge part of that. And also finding ways to connect people and show them how easy it is to get from A to Z, and to keep going. So hopefully we can keep doing that.
I bet you will. What would you like people to know about the model that maybe we haven't touched on yet?
If you go to the Zone website, every single thing that we share, every single thing that we curate, invent, build is based on the model. All of it. The model is where it starts and where it ends. So even if you come across a blog or a newsletter, it's all from the model. So the model is like the basis of everything that we do.
What were the top 3 lessons you learned throughout the creative process?
The interesting thing is that while building the model, I didn't get a chance to use the model, right? And I wish I had it. As we build the software, I believe that Journey will be our strongest tool. And the reason I say that is because every single time we hit a step in the model, as it grew, as it evolved, we had to create something to help people work through it. So as I mentioned before, the questionnaire and envisioning sessions, which are now separate tools, used to be a part of the model because we really wanted people to feel the possibility of getting through to the end. So it's like create all of these things that that people can use. And so lesson 1 is like, the more the model changed and evolved over time, the more I understood how important it was to respect the process. There's so many times where I wanted to apply the model to something that I was doing and I was skipping steps and it wasn't working out. And I was like, getting in my own way, moving too quickly, not respecting the discover process, not, fully ideating. And then I come back 3 weeks later and I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna start from fresh and I'm gonna do it how I'm supposed to. And it always works out. So that's, lesson 1 is respect the process, respect the model and all of the stages that it involves. Finding your happy place. There is in the I think it's in the Arrington Method guide and in the verification pathway where we talk about the sweet spot. And it's something that sort of I think it came up around 2020, 2021. And it just really means like that moment of realization where you're like, this is how I'm going to do it. Like, now I've got it. And I think it was such a pivotal moment being able to convey that and communicate that through the model, because everybody has that moment, but not a lot of people wait for it. And sometimes that moment doesn't come until after they've started doing things, and it can disrupt the entire process. So waiting for sort of like that, I call it the sweet spot, but waiting until that moment hits you, it makes a huge difference in being able to move forward to the next stage. And that usually happens. It's supposed to happen in the Envision realm. And then the third lesson that I would say that I learned throughout the creative process would be, sometimes you get to a point where you just have to make a decision. Because I'm lucky enough to have an amazing team who's very collaborative, I lean on them a lot. I ask a lot of them and their opinions. But sometimes I just have to make a decision. There are times where everybody has their own opinion and they're all different. And I may like them all, or I may not like any of them. And so sometimes I have to go into a cocoon and just say, like, Arnitra, this is your decision to make, and you just have to make it. And then you can move forward. And so I found that a decision is final when I can't be swayed. Mm-hmm. It could be as simple as naming a document. Like, we put so much time and effort into everything we do. We put so much thought and care even into how we name things. And so something even at what seems as simple as naming a document can be a huge decision for me, or naming, a tool, or, figuring out, how many people have this or that. Sometimes you go to the team, but sometimes that decision just has to be yours. And I know when a decision is truly mine is when I put it out there, and no matter what anyone says, I'm like, nope, that's
my decision. It's final. Yeah. Period.
It's final. That's
what we're doing.
Yeah. And so I feel the same way about ideation and sweet spot. Like, those are sort of tied together. Like, when you hit that moment, you can't be swayed. It's like, nope, I know this is it.
I know it. I got it. I have it now.
Yeah.
Ain't nobody persuading me of anything. I know it.
Yep.
If you had to start your project all over again, what would you do differently?
I want to say absolutely nothing, because I respect the journey. I love ups and downs. There's always ebbs and flows. That's life. Like, you can't get around it. I wish I had a team sooner, but I just think that speaks to my impatience. Like, the only thing, if I could go back and do things differently, the only element that would be affected is time. Like, could I do this quicker, or could I, have this out sooner? We put so much time and effort into the methodology and the model that it took us about, so I started actually physically working on it in 2016. I didn't get a team until 2019, and we didn't actually share the model publicly until 2021. So that's, 5 years of working on something and curating it and making sure that it's ready. That's how much respect we have for the people we want it to touch, is that we we waited, and we waited and we waited, and we were closed curtains behind the scenes doing a lot of work. So the company in and of itself is very unique in that approach. We weren't selling anything. We weren't, we weren't doing anything publicly. Everything was internal. Everything was for the sake of creating something great. And you're going to also see it when you see the Journey software. It took us 2 years to design it, just to figure out what is it going to look like. And we always consider the end user. We always consider the person on the other side of it, to make sure, like, is this something that's going to be well received? So do I wish things had moved a little bit faster? Yes. But would I change anything? No.
That's amazing. You got to respect the process.
Yep, you do. Got to respect the journey.
Got to respect the journey. Well, that was the most inspiring conversation ever. You are so inspiring.
Thank you.
So amazing.
I had fun. This has been an amazing time digging into some really great memories and sharing a lot about like what goes into different areas of knowing more about the model and the methodology. So thank you for having me.
Well, it's been amazing to talk to you. It's been such an inspiring chat, as I said before. And thank you for your time. Thank you for your brain power. Thank you for your insight, your knowledge. It's been amazing. Wow, that was such an insightful and inspiring conversation. Thank you, Arnitra, for sharing about your creative journey and all you've had to go through and been through during it. I know you inspire me to keep chasing my creative dreams, and I hope our viewers feel the same way. Leave a comment below and let us know the thoughts you have, any lessons you've learned through any projects you've been going through. And just drop it down below. As always, in our description, we have tons of resources for you, all sorts of tools and guides, anything you need. It'll be linked down there. And we'll see you in the next video. Stay spark.